Let me ask a question this morning. Is more better? Is more better? Well, if you're an England fan, rugby, more victories are much better, right? It's great to be winning again and to celebrate that yesterday. If you're a Man United fan, just the odd draw is quite helpful. As a Man United fan, I can say that. If you're Welsh, you're just a bit more impressed by the game compared to the last 2 years, really, for rugby. But is more better? And when I'm asking that question, I'm asking the question because when we have one of something, often we want two of something. You know, Rachel sometimes sends me down to the shops and says, "Can you go and get us a pint of milk?" And I'll come back with 2 pints of milk. Or can you just go and get some prawns, get some biscuits, and rather than just 1 pack of prawns, 1 pack of biscuits, I think, do you know what? We're going to get through those biscuits really quickly, actually. And we need to get more milk. We need more. We need more. More is better. And actually, this lie that actually the world tells us is true actually goes all the way back to the very beginning, when the serpent in the Garden of Eden told Adam and Eve that actually they needed more than was already given to them. What you don't have is what you need to be happy. Anyone ever feels that? Gosh, that advert, I suddenly really need L'Oreal. Wow, because I'm worth it. Think about marketing, think about social media. What you don't have is what you need to be happy. You see it on Love Island. Obviously, we don't watch Love Island, but you see it on Love Island. My head's turned because I've got this one here, but actually I've seen someone else, and I don't have that, so I need that to be happy. I wonder if you can relate to any of these things. Maybe for you, it's more followers. Maybe it's more money. Maybe it's more influence. Maybe more time. Maybe more fun. Maybe more muscles. Maybe more houses. Maybe more luxury. Maybe more knowledge. Maybe more friends. Maybe more hair. I've gone for that recently. Maybe more success. Maybe more holidays. Maybe more credibility. Is more better? We want more because more is always better. But what if the stuff that you have or you think you want is actually keeping you from what you need? What if the more that you're hoping for is actually keeping you from what you need? Now, for the regulars here, we're carrying on a series here, which is Habits of a Healthy Heart. And we're looking at this idea of simplicity. And just to kind of frame this morning, we're going to be spending a bit of time in Acts 27, which we'll be doing in your groups this week as well. And the context of this story is that basically, if you've ever watched The Perfect Storm or any other film where there's kind of a big storm going on for a long time and it feels desperate and there's a really good-looking actor and somehow saves the day, this is kind of what you get in the Bible. I'd like to say, actually, The Perfect Storm, really, they've kind of taken all of this story and they've basically made it their own and taken all the money as a result as well. But in Acts 27, we hear of a story of Paul in a storm, and it describes it as a northeaster, which is kind of like a typhoon strength. And they've been in a storm for 14 days. It describes in verse 20, a terrible storm raged for many days, blotting out the sun and the stars. I wonder if anyone ever knows what that's like, where you're in such a bad situation you can't see anywhere out, that you're struggling, that you can't see what's next, and they're desperate. They're in this horrendous situation. They're exhausted, and they're just coming into land, but they're afraid that they're going to be driven into the rocks because of how much they're holding. And it says this in verses 33 to 38. And as day was about to dawn, Paul implored them all to take food, saying, "Today is the 14th day you have waited and continued without food." Who can go a day without food? That's good to know I'm not on my own. Brilliant. 14 days without food. They've eaten nothing. Therefore, I urge you to take nourishment, for this is for your survival, since not a hair on your head will fall and fail the head of any of you. And when he had said these things, he took bread and gave thanks to God in the presence of them all. And when he had broken it, he began to eat. Then they were all encouraged and also took food themselves. And in all, we were 276 people on the ship. So when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship and threw out the wheat into the sea. I want us to concentrate on one verse. Verse 38 says this: when they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship and threw out the wheat into the sea. When they had enough, they got rid of what they didn't need. Enough is when you have what you need. This is about us as a community practicing the habit of simplifying. When you have enough of what you need, say to the person next to you, I have enough. Speak it into existence. I have enough. Begin to say to someone you don't even know, say, I have enough. Begin to speak it into existence. Because the prayer is, God, give me less of what doesn't matter. God, give me more of what does matter. God, give me less of what doesn't matter. God, give me more of what does matter. It sounds strange, right? It's a strange thing to say. It'd be very countercultural to say that, but it's actually true of what Jesus teaches us in the Gospels. It's actually the truth. Matthew 6, verse 19 says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. We'll tell you a bit about that in a moment. But store up for yourselves treasure in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Remember, we're talking about the habits of a healthy heart. Wherever your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I agree, Rory. Want to see what you care about. You want to see what you care about. Look at your latest transactions. Look at your latest account balance. What's going on? You want to see what you prioritize. Look at your diary. You want to see what you prioritize. Look at who the people you spend time with. And the thing is, we've talked about this over the last few weeks because the majority of people who have done some kind of New Year's resolution, if we're honest, like, hands up if you're still going with your resolutions. Oh, well done. Well done. That's really good. Well done. I hope it was not just to come to church on a Sunday. That should be a prerequisite. But well done. That's amazing. Do you know, the reality is, the reason they don't work often is because a lot of our New Year's resolutions are external rather than internal. It's all about how can I do something more? What can I do for me? Whereas actually, if it's internal, it's about a habit changing. And if you want to change your life, change your habits. And if you want to change your habits, let God change your heart. If you want to change your life, change your habits. But if you want to change your habits, let God change your heart. And so we want to be people that don't store stuff up that doesn't last. For some of us, it's almost like a goal, if we're really honest, to accumulate stuff. Some of us, we want bigger bank balances. Why? Because most of us, we put our security in money over our security in God. I mean, I know that at times I absolutely do that. Why do we ask for a new outfit? Because we want to kind of keep up with the latest season of what's going on, to try and stick with the trend and still please people. And many people feel empty on the inside, and so they need some kind of external validation. Just look at what's going on in the cosmetic industry right now. It's just crazy, the number of people that are doing things to their bodies for that external validation, for really when all they need to know is they're secure and they're loved and that God's proud. Maybe something else for you. Maybe it's why? Distraction from the problem actually that's going on in your marriage, and so you don't want to face it, and so you just buy your spouse another watch. What is it for you? What does it mean to have less of what doesn't matter? What do we do so that we're not storing up stuff that doesn't last? Well, Hebrews 12 verse 1 says, let us strip off every weight that slows us down. And it goes on to say, we do that by keeping our eyes on Jesus. Those on the ship, it says they have enough. When they have enough. And so when they have enough, they throw away what was holding them back overboard. They eliminate all the stuff that was preventing their safe arrival to shore. Everything that weighed them down. What weighs you down in your life? Too many choices? Clutter? Expectations? Notifications? Distractions? Decisions? I was listening on a podcast and it impacted me greatly just over Christmas. Practically, if you haven't worn something in a year, like you've gone through all the months, you've gone through every weather that England can provide, and potentially overseas as well. If you haven't worn something minus like a dinner jacket and kind of that ball gown, do you need it? If you've done 12 months with an outfit and not needing to use it, do you need it? How often do you do the Oxfam run or find another charity shop where you can just give stuff away because really it's just gathering dust. Matthew 6:19 said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy." I have case point one right here, my jacket. It's got holes in it. Literally, it's got holes in it. I put this on to lead a carol service at Christmas. We don't go to many weddings anymore because we're at the age and stage where, people are kind of in that space already. They've got married, but it's got holes in it. Moths have got to it. It was just stored away. I wasn't wearing it. I wonder how many of us that represent something for us. That we're just kind of holding on to things. And actually we forget we even have things, right? When was the last time we went up to the attic to see what you still had there? Of course, there are some things that really do matter, like christening gowns, where you've held on to for 100 years for moments like today. And there are significant things we hold on to as well. But often we're holding on to things that actually just weigh us down, that create clutter and confusion. What about simplifying? If you get the new version, why keep the old version? If you get the new Apple Watch, get the old Apple Watch away. If you get a new pair of Levi jeans, give the old pair away. It's kind of strange saying it, isn't it? Because it's not what the world tells us to do. It's countercultural. It's letting go of material concerns and distractions that helps us to live with clarity and peace. Because I honestly believe, and I've seen in my own life, too much stuff is a distraction to our mind. It creates clutter. The blogger duo, the minimalist, define clutter as this: anything that does not add value to your life. Have a think about what you have. Peter Walsh says, anything that interferes with the life you could be living. Is there anything in your life that's just like interfering with the potential peace you could experience? Physical clutter in our homes and offices is often as kind of like mental clutter, I think. It represents what's going on in our minds, and it can sabotage our focus on what actually matters. Some of you just need to get rid of stuff off the back of today. And you say, actually, I just don't need that in my life. It might be an addiction. It might be something you're holding on to physically, like some clothing. But it might be something that you know is actually really not helpful for you. Even if, as Rachel said, you've got no kind of understanding or experience of faith, and there will be things that are holding you back from the life that you are to live because of the purposes over your life that you don't even necessarily know. Strip off every weight that slows you down. Everything. Busyness, comparison, the thief of joy. God's designed you individually as you are, perfect as you are. There's no one else on the planet that looks like you, acts like you, has your DNA, your soul print. Do not compare yourself. But the only way we can do that, and I've found in my life as a 37-year-old man, husband and father, is by fixing my eyes on Jesus. Because if I don't, I just look around at what else is going on. Keep our eyes on Jesus. In the same way that those on the ship, they had to keep their eyes on the prize of the shore that was to come. Yes, they had to get rid of stuff, but they had a focus to get to dry land. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The prayer is, God, give me less of what doesn't matter and more of what does matter. Let me illustrate this even more. Ecclesiastes 4 verse 6 says, better is one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. You're wondering why they're licorice all sorts here. Well, there's two reasons. Firstly, because it's for an illustration. And secondly, because they're the only sweet that I don't like. So I would eat them like one by one. If this was like jelly beans or Skittles, I would just be really tempted to start eating in this moment. So this is my way of kind of avoiding all temptation right now. But better is one handful with tranquility than two handfuls chasing after the wind, because we just want more. We just want more all the time. If I release what's in this hand and just go back to one handful, do you know what I can do with this hand? I can help someone up. I can hug someone. I can even apologize to someone. You can be there for someone with one handful. But the world tells us to chase, to go for more. Better is one hand with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind. And so we need to know what matters most. What matters most? I want to encourage those regulars here. Ask this in your groups this week. Be really real with each other. What matters most in your life? One of my strange privileges as a pastor is that I get to spend time with people in their last, sometimes hours, last days, last weeks of their lives. And often I'll ask the question, kind of, what really mattered to you? What really matters to you right now? And some would say, their relationship with God, because there's connection with church. Some would say church. Some would say their spouse. Some would say their children. Some would say their parents. Some would say the fact that they've made a difference in people's lives. Some would say kind of fighting for justice. Others would say actually just staying sober right to the end because that really mattered to them. Some would say that what mattered to them was their loved ones knowing Jesus, and they'd really care about how we crafted their funeral or Thanksgiving service. Like it really mattered. That's what mattered to them. Let me ask a question. If you knew you only had 1 week left to live, how would you live it? The reality is you wouldn't care about your leather sofa. You wouldn't care about that next car, that Apple Watch, the new countertops, that 70-inch flat screen TV, the latest coat that you've just purchased. Of course, there are things 100% that we need. Of course there are. This week I had to get myself new glasses because the glasses I had before were 8 years old, scratched to smithereens pretty much, and about 3 prescriptions delayed. So I went from -4 8 years ago to -6 in both eyes. I wear contact lenses. I need glasses. I've been told even this week I have to start wearing them. I actually need them because I'm vain. I hate wearing glasses. So if you're regular, you're going to see me in glasses a bit more because I've actually let my eyes begin to heal a little bit from just wearing contact lenses from the age of 30. There are things we need. There'll be things in your life that you need. Absolutely. But actually what matters to me most are the things in my life that have meaning. After 10 years of marriage with Rachel and the gift of 3 boys, I've come to actually treasure the simple moments of holding Rachel's hand, of going for walks, of having honest conversations, of comforting each other in those times of loss and struggle, of watching our children as they grow, of every now and then getting beaten up on the trampoline. I'm sure I'm sporting a bruise or 2 this morning. As a pastor, what moves me most is seeing people move from not knowing that they're loved or that there's no hope for them to realizing that through Jesus that anything's possible in their life, that they can know freedom from the past, purpose in the present, and hope in the future. To see people so changed by Jesus that they begin actually offering that same hope to others around them, the hope for this world. Better is 1 handful with peace than 2 filled with toil. I have enough. And some of you don't believe that, and that's fine. And the truth is, the statement's actually incomplete. Because if you're just trying to get through life, trying to be happy, everything in the world will tell you need more. More followers. Whatever it is. My experience personally is that needing to do more, be more, have more is overwhelming, is exhausting, and it's never satisfying. It runs dry. And the statement, I have enough, is actually incomplete. Really, it should be this: because I have Jesus, I have enough. Some of you might say, well, James, I have Jesus, but I want more. Some of you might be saying, actually, legitimately, James, I'm really struggling. I don't have enough. You have no idea what I'm dealing with, let alone an Apple Watch TV. Or whatever it is, I'm dealing with debt. I'm dealing with medical bills. I'm dealing with real struggle right now. I want to acknowledge that. There are some people here absolutely hurting. But if you find yourself saying, I have Jesus, but I don't have enough, then I want to show us these words from Paul, the same man that was on that ship, who was actually a prisoner on that ship. He said this: I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. All this who gives me strength through Jesus. His eyes fixed on Jesus. The only way I can do life, or even consider doing life, is by keeping my eyes on Jesus, is what he's saying. But the truth is, everyone's experience of this is kind of contentment is different, right? And it's difficult to understand. I love Jim Carrey's quote. He says this: "I wish that everyone could get rich and famous and have everything they ever dreamed of, so they could see that that's not the answer." That was inspired by my boys watching Sonic this morning. Maybe you're here today and you're thinking, I kind of know about Jesus, but I wouldn't say I really know him like that. Like, not in this way of like being content in him. Or perhaps you've been following Jesus for a while, but you're still wrestling with and feeling with needing more in life. Here's the thing: whether you've known Jesus for years or just exploring him today, as Rachel said, like, we're all on a journey. We all have a tendency, don't we, to fill our lives with stuff that really just doesn't ultimately satisfy. It doesn't really matter. And partly why I'm saying this today is because as 3 children kind of get baptized in this space, they're going to find through life over the years that there'll be moments in life where what they were hoping for of great success or great feeling of being content won't offer that. And if we're all honest, there have been things that we've felt like if we get just that next level up the ladder, or if we just make that next step, or that next friendship, or we get that next dress, we'll suddenly be happy. But the reality is, for many of us, we're left with a sense of longing for more. And I would argue it's not more of what the world offers, but it's what Jesus offers. No more toiling with 2 hands, trying everything we can to please other people, to please ourselves, but with 1 hand, knowing peace. Jesus came to change the whole understanding. He lived the life we couldn't. He died the death we deserved, and he rose again, showing us hope for the future. And when you have Jesus, I really believe this, you truly have enough. He's the only way. He's the only one who can satisfy. I've experienced that in my life, and I know there are many here that would say the same. And actually, it's kind of a cry for help. That was my experience. Coming back, in my own experience, coming back to faith, having grown up in a Christian world, tried to go my own way, and essentially said, you know, this isn't working. I've got a hole and a void in my life, and I want more. But it's not more of what the world offers. It's a peace that this world can't offer. It's a peace, though, that Jesus promises. He says, I give you my peace. Who wants some more peace and calm in their lives? And let me ask this question. If you're still thinking, I want more of Jesus, or I want more in my life, I want more of him, I would say this. Is it possible that Jesus is actually just in the background of your life? Is it possible, because your life is full of so much other stuff, that he's just kind of just in the background, not really present, if you're honest? And actually, if you're honest, you kind of try to shoehorn him into elements of your life when it suits you. I've got an example of this. The other day we had our car broken into. Actually, the reality is we left the door open. It wasn't locked, and someone tried it. We still got broken into. And Rach and I were trying to collate this evidence, and we have this app called Pro Control Plus that is linked to our security cameras around the house. And we were trying to work out how to get in because we'd forgotten the password. We actually hadn't checked it since the summer, which is a while ago, right? It's coming, summer's coming, don't worry. But it was a while ago. And we were kind of like, how do we even get onto this? How do we get this information up? And what I felt the Lord saying to me through it was, James, how often do you just treat me like this app, that when things are desperate, you suddenly need me? And so much so that you've forgotten how to connect with me. I wonder if your phone is your life, and Jesus is an app. Is he an app that's just running in the background, or is he front and center next to the call and Google at the bottom of that homepage? You know, you downloaded him because you know he's important and it matters, but most of the time it's just kind of running in the background. Most of your attention is on other apps like social media, work, entertainment, the Times, guilty, and other distractions. But what happens when you begin to put the app of Jesus front and center? You'll see your priorities will suddenly shift. And actually you'll see that what you want and what you need will begin to come to you. It says in Matthew 6:33, seek first the kingdom of God, seek first Jesus and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Prioritizing God simplifies life. Focusing on him removes unnecessary worries, fears, concerns, anxiety. The problem is we allow anxiety because we anxiously desire getting more, which often replaces the peace which we should actually know. Trusting God for provision allows us to focus on what really matters. When you put Jesus at the forefront of your life, he's not just a historical figure. He's not just a Sunday school lesson. He's not just someone with good morals. He is your comforter. He is your counselor. He is your confidant. He's your friend. He's with you through every season of life. And he's so gracious that even if you do treat him like an app, like Rachel and I did, Pro Control Plus, he'll be there for you in your moment of need. Some of you are in a place of need right now. It says in the Psalms that he draws near to the brokenhearted with the crushed in spirit. I pray you would know that today. At the end of the day, really for all of us, it boils down to a couple of things: pride and idolatry. Pride says, I know better than Jesus what I need. And idolatry is really about worship. What are we worshiping? I need this more than I need to be with Jesus. But when you put him first, something starts to change in you and you begin to slowly realize what actually matters. Paul describes this, the same guy, right, that was on this boat. He was in chains. He was a prisoner, but he saw the hope. He describes it as a renewing of our minds. This is a transformation of our minds. And it's countercultural, right? Because culture would say greed's good. Being generous is kind of weak. Serving others, that looks weak. Having less, that doesn't make sense. But actually, Jesus' message is to choose generosity over greed, to choose others over ourselves, to choose to have less, to bless more around us. The world says, get as much as you can, look out for yourself first. But Jesus says, and is described in Acts 20:35, again, Paul speaking, it is more blessed to give than to receive. So maybe instead of hoarding wealth or all those clothes that are gathering up dust, instead of climbing over others to get ahead, instead of trying to push people down to lift yourself up, people might not understand it, but if you begin to live counterculturally, they might even think you're crazy, but that's the way. Something will shift in you. You'll start to see real joy in life, not craving after things that don't really matter. Better is one handful with tranquility than two handfuls chasing after the wind. See, when those on the ship had had enough, when they'd eaten what they needed, they lightened the ship. They threw out what they didn't need anymore. But it wasn't till they'd acknowledged that they'd had enough before they began to throw away that which was getting in the way of their safe arrival to shore. I wonder whether this morning, as we come to a time of prayer and reflection, and as the band come and join me, whether that question there for you this morning, are there things in your life you just need to throw away? Is there past hurt that you've held on to that's actually just causing real problems for you? Is it unforgiveness? Practically, are there things that you can begin to do today as a result of this time together? To begin to declutter your heart, declutter your mind, and maybe even just practically declutter your home. Let's stand, if we're able, this morning. We're going to